He told her to move. She didn't say a word. And what happened next made every single person on that plane freeze. Picture this: a private jet, leather seats, the kind of flight where everything is supposed to be perfect. And right there, sitting calmly in the front cabin, is a woman reading a book. She is not causing trouble. She is not being loud. She is just sitting there minding her own business. Then a pilot walks in, and without missing a beat, he points at her and says, "Move to the back." Now, most people in that moment would either argue or quietly get up and walk away. But she did neither. She just looked at him. And that look changed everything. By the end of this video, you are going to find out exactly what she said, what he did, and why this story is still being talked about today. Her name was Diana Sinclair. She was not flashy. She did not walk around with bodyguards or wear designer clothes to prove a point. She was the kind of person who let her work speak for itself. And her work? It spoke very loudly. Diana had built her aviation company from nothing. Not from family money. Not from connections. From years of early mornings, failed deals, sleepless nights, and a stubbornness that refused to quit. By the time she was in her early 40s, she owned a fleet of private jets. She was the one signing contracts. She was the one hiring pilots. She was, for all practical purposes, the person who made that flight possible. But the pilot did not know that. Or maybe he did not care to find out. That morning, Diana had booked a seat in the front cabin of her own aircraft for a business trip. She had done this dozens of times before. She sat down, opened her book, and waited for the rest of the passengers to board. When Captain Robert Hale walked through the cabin during his pre-flight check, he stopped when he saw her. He looked at her the way some people look at someone they have already decided does not belong somewhere. Without even asking a question, he said it plainly. "This section is reserved. You need to move to the back." Diana closed her book slowly. She looked up at him and said, "I'm sorry, who are you?" He introduced himself as the captain of the flight. She nodded, and then she said something that made his face go pale. "And do you know who I am?" He didn't. "I own this plane. I own this company. And I think what's going to happen next is that you are going to walk back to the cockpit, and we are going to have a very different conversation after we land. Now, before you think this is just some feel-good story, let's talk about why this moment matters so much. Because it is not just about one rude pilot and one powerful woman. It is about something that has been happening for a very long time. There is actual data on this. A 2021 study by the Harvard Business Review found that Black professionals are regularly questioned about their authority, their credentials, and their right to be in certain spaces, even when they are the most qualified person in the room. The study called it invisible taxation, the mental energy spent proving yourself over and over again, in situations where a white colleague would never be asked to prove anything. Diana had experienced this before, not on her own planes, but in boardrooms, in airports, in meetings where she would walk in and people would assume she was someone's assistant. She had learned early on that the world does not always make room for you. Sometimes you have to own the room yourself. And in this case, she literally owned it. Captain Hale had been flying private aviation for over 12 years. He had a spotless record. By all accounts, he was good at his job. But somewhere along the way, he had built a picture in his head of what authority looked like. And Diana did not fit that picture. So he made a decision, without asking, without checking, without thinking that she needed to be corrected. That is the part that gets people. It was not just rude, it was automatic. It was the kind of assumption that happens so fast the person making it does not even realize they are making it. After the plane landed, the story did not stay private for long. One of the other passengers, consultant who had been sitting just a few rows back, posted about what he witnessed. He described the whole exchange in detail, the way Diana handled it, the way the captain's face changed when she told him who she was, the way the cabin went completely silent. The post spread fast. Within 48 hours, it had been shared over 200,000 times. People reacted in every direction. Some were angry at the pilot. Some said Diana handled it with more grace than they ever could have. Some asked why she had to prove herself at all. And a few, a small but loud few, said it was probably a misunderstanding and everyone was overreacting. But here is what the data says about misunderstandings like this. A 2010 Gallup report found that Black Americans report significantly higher rates of everyday discrimination compared to other groups, situations where they are treated as less intelligent, less capable, or less deserving of respect in professional settings. These are not rare events. For many people, this is Tuesday. Diana later gave one interview about the incident. She did not yell. She did not perform outrage for the cameras. She said something very simple. "I have worked my whole life to build something, and I refuse to be made small in a space that I created." That line hit differently because it was not just about a plane. It was about every woman, every person of color, Every person who has ever been dismissed in a room they earned the right to be in. As for Captain Hale, the airline conducted an internal review. He was suspended pending investigation. The outcome of that investigation was not made fully public, but sources close to the company confirmed that he did not return to flying that aircraft. Diana was asked if she felt satisfied by that outcome. She said she felt tired. Not angry, tired, because this should not have been a story in the first place. And she is right. Think about what it takes for a moment like this to go differently. Someone has to own the plane. Someone has to have the receipts right there. Someone has to have enough social proof around them that a viral post makes people believe her side of the story immediately. But what about the woman who does not own the plane? What about the woman who gets told to move and does not have a company name to drop? Does she get believed? Does anyone post about her? Most of the time, no. That is the uncomfortable part of this story that people gloss over when they share it as a victory. Diana herself said in that same interview, "The goal is not for more black women to own planes so they can fight back. The goal is to stop the fight from happening at all." This story is about power. It is about who gets it, who takes it, and who has to prove they deserve it over and over again. Diana Sinclair walked onto her own aircraft and was told she did not belong there. And instead of shrinking, she held her ground so calmly, so quietly, that the silence said more than any argument ever could. She did not need to raise her voice. She did not need to explain herself. She just needed one question. Do you know who I am? And the answer to that question changed everything. The lesson here is not just about race or gender or power, though it is absolutely about all of those things. It is about what happens when we let assumptions run faster than our common sense. It is about the cost of deciding who someone is before you have ever spoken a word to them. Captain Hale lost his job over a 30-second conversation. A 30-second conversation that he started with a decision he made in 2 seconds. That is worth thinking about. If this story made you feel something, the next video on your screen right now is going to hit just as hard. Go watch it.